Hello everyone, welcome to Go Terran TV. This is Dr. T, PhD, the prodigy of sports psychology, and today I'm bringing you yet another wonderful episode on the world of education. What better dollar spent on a return on investment than in ourself on academia and continuing education, and that's what it's all about. And as you know, Dr. T, PhD is not only a personal trainer here in the greater Atlanta area, but also I'm an adjunct doctoral research chair for two different universities, one being the University of Arizona Global Campus, and the other I'll talk about today being Grand Canyon University. As you know, GCU is where I earned my own PhD in performance psychology a couple years ago, and for the last several weeks I've been bringing you past videos from the last couple years of talking to different faculty and teams about the importance of persistence and sacrifice and resilience. Well, today I'm going to bring you yet another video, but this one is much more recent. In fact, it's only a couple months ago as I record this back in September of 2023. In one of the recent meetings with faculty and colleagues, I was invited on a panel of different guests to come on and talk about some of the tips and suggestions on getting through the iterative process of doctoral research, and much more importantly, being able to fulfill the final milestone of crossing that finish line and earning your doctorate. And so if there are people out there watching this video who are currently enrolled as a student, whether it be undergraduate or master's level or even a doctoral level, this video might be very interesting for you, because what my colleagues and I are going to put out there is talking and discussing about what helped us ultimately finish our program. And so that'll be unique in terms of a health and fitness video blog. As you know, you get a little different content from many different perspectives with yours truly. And so that's why I like to incorporate this both from a theoretical and an applicable standpoint of using this and synthesizing it with all of the other things that I offer here with Go Terran Health and Fitness. So I hope you're going to be enjoying this video as we go back a couple months and watch this from both myself and my colleagues, talking about how we got through it through grit and determination, and some other great advice that we'll lay out here for especially those watching who are currently enrolled as a student somewhere out there in the world of academia. So we'll be further exploring that here momentarily, and in the meantime I invite you to please make sure to like this video, leave us a comment, and share it with all of your friends and family out there. And remember, with Go Terran Health and Fitness, it's your time, it's your investment, it's your life. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much, Dr. Junior. Now we'll do Dr. Taryn Hoff.
Hi, everyone. I'm Taryn, and I want to concur with my fellow panel mates there, Dr. Christina, Dr. Frankie, and Dr. Anna. And just to kind of tell you from my perspective, first of all, I began my program in the doctoral journey in May 2018, and 3 years later, May 2021, I had D80, dean signature, and finished and completed within 3 years. And my goal was to do that as fast as possible. I guess that goes back to, in my case, when I started my bachelor's degree, I had finished before the age of 20, and I was completely done because I just wanted to get out of school and never go back. But just like you, I guess I changed that course direction and did return back to school. So I'm in the same position as everyone else here on the call. Just to kind of, I guess, relate it to everybody on the call, methodologists, chairs, and fellow learners too. I think the big thing going along with what the panel has been discussing, a lot of it entails and underlies just a lot of hard sweat and grit and sacrifice, which we all know of. In my case, it's just waking up at ungodly early hours, and I just tackled the dissertation every single day in that last year. And again, I think that we can all relate to that, that as, you know, again, we've heard life happens and things get in our ways, and just what can we do to pivot? But in my own case, I run my own personal training business down here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I hear it every day from totally different personal training clients from all walks of life. They'll ask me, and the majority usually is, what do I have to do to get rid of this body fat? How do I lose this last 10 pounds of weight? And the first thing I'll throw back to them is ask them, what have you been doing? How's this week been going? What have you done this week to make some good benchmarks? How's your nutrition been going? Have you been getting on the cardio machine and doing a little bit more than what we've been planning in our goals? And so a lot of that, I guess, kind of aligns up with what we've been doing here in this program with kind of, what are we doing with our dissertation, kind of like what we heard at residency. And are we doing something to it every single day and devoting time to it? So in my case, I just told myself I was going to get up at 2:30, 3 o'clock every single morning and just tackle this thing till I was completely finished. And so I did. And so with that, again, just to relate it to my own business with personal training, I see clients all the time, all walks of life, and some of them I've had for 10, 12 years, and they weigh the same, and they're, still kind of, they're okay with it. They're just, going through their own direction. I have other clients who are just highly motivated and very aggressive, and they'll lose their weight and reduce their body fat within, months. And so really, I'm a firm believer that it's up to us, to be able to take our accountability, which some of the panel already said that it truly isn't up to our chair, our methodologist, our context expert. They're going to be there to help coach us, but as we all know, as a doctoral learner, it's up to us to try to, finish and cross that finish line. So I think that's probably the best way I could put it from my own perspective.
Awesome. Thank you. Do one more quick round, a whip around. So Dr. Anna, one more piece of advice that comes up for you.
Find ways of creating accountability for yourself and find ways to make the journey, I guess, as efficient as possible. That saying, like, hustle while you wait, I feel like that always gets said in advice and everything, but I think that it's so true, because if you have just submitted something and you're sitting back and you're celebrating and you're doing nothing, you are already losing an opportunity to get ahead on the next thing. I don't know if you're going to ask Dr. Quaid like a question about like, what did your chair do to help you, or what did you do to motivate you? I don't mean to take the words out of your mouth, but
not yet.
Okay, well, good. So having the support of your chair, your committee, or even people that are more senior students than you, those people can give you a realistic idea of what is possible and how fast things can go. So I didn't know that certain sections of chapters could go very fast. I didn't know that before you even get into IRB, you can be working ahead on chapter 4 and chapter 5, because there's a lot of just fill-in stuff that you can go back and edit later. So yeah, thinking of ways to set your future self up for just like a continued momentum is really invaluable. I don't even feel like I talked in circles there from what I first said, but I think that all made sense. Dr. Quaid did not have us rehearse, by the way, so we are human and fallible, and I'm talking off the cuff here, so this is good.
Perfect. Dr. Frankie, one last one.
I do have I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Lisa.
There's a question.
We're not ready for questions yet, Lisa. Wait 1 second.
Oh, because you had wrote questions and there's okay.
Not yet.
Never mind.
Okay, Dr. Frankie.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I use this with my learner quite a bit, and I asked them to simplify and think about the process in terms of when you're writing your proposal. Think about how would you write a recipe for cooking, right? You want to make sure it's clear. Clear about the ingredients and clear about the steps so that someone else can repeat it. And so I use that quite a bit with my learner. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yep. Dr. Christina?
I would say my biggest piece of advice is not to take the feedback personally, because I think I did that at the beginning of the program, especially during the coursework. I'm like, I can write, I'm getting A's, and start writing the 10 strategic points. That seems okay. And I got to the prospectus, and like, I felt like everybody was coming from my neck every time I turned it in. But I realize now, of course, on the outside looking in, it was just to make sure that what I was producing was quality work, because garbage in, garbage out. So it wasn't a determinant of my worth as a person, just trying to make sure that I build this skill. And so once I kind of took the a little bit of the emotion out of it. That helped a lot. So I didn't take it so personally when I was getting feedback.
Nice. And Dr. Tarrant?
Yes, I did want to point out the most important thing in my case that I would advise all the learners on the call is to do something that I didn't. I wish I would have earlier in my program, was to actually figure out the form and formatting ahead of time. So we know that there's 7 levels in this program. I would jump up to level 7 and be ready for form and format. And the reason why I say that and stress that is because also GCU right now as an adjunct, I chair about 5 or 6 learners, and I'm also a content expert serving on about 6 other committees. And one thing that I constantly say, I'll use my example of my very first and only learner that I've graduated so far with her PhD. She was in the program at 9+ years, and just about at the terminal end, that was it. It was sink or swim. Literally, they were telling her that if she didn't pass her dissertation defense and get the D80 in time, that was going to be the end of her, and she'd have to start all over and be kicked out, literally. But anyway, I was going to tell you that with the form and formatting, that was something that I was very unfamiliar with all the way up to near the end of my level 5 AQR submission. And so that's something that I'm not sure when they get to level 2 AQR, submission, if that's something that everybody goes through in terms of getting feedback on form and formatting. But I can't stress enough how important that was, because I knew nothing of word styles, navigation pane, hyperlinks, table of contents, figures. That was all new to me. I didn't have to do that in my graduate master's work in my case previously. So that was all foreign to me. I have some learners that are familiar with it, and I'm sure they're much more advanced in knowledge than I am of it. But I'm still kind of learning it, to be honest with you, as we're going through. But that's one thing that, again, as I see, I'm trying to stress to all my learners that I chair to pay attention to now, is to streamline it so they don't run into that later on when they get into level 7. Because in that case of that learner I was telling you about, it was 9+ years. Thankfully, it was a happy ending that she was able to get that form and formatting going, but it just kept coming back over and over, and she was just getting so frustrated and just couldn't get that thing aligned. But finally we got some help with it and we're able to pass her on, so she'll actually walk next month at the commencement. So I was very grateful for that. But that's one thing for sure. If we're not doing it right now or for paying attention to it, I just urge and stress as much as possible, get on that form and formatting as much as possible.
Nice. Okay, we're going to do a little gallery shot here. And I'm going to pull Dr. Mall into the panel. And Lisa, what was the first question that was posted?
There just seems to be some little bit discussion about, are the 3 years Taryn have alluded to include completed coursework and dissertation, both? So I guess they were trying to figure out, Dr. Huff, if your 3.5 years included everything.
Yeah, in my case, it was 3 years, and it was about just under a year with my chair, Dr. Mall, and I finishing the dissertation.
Thank you.
Let me just add to that. Some learners I've had have finished in 3 years. Some have finished in 9 years. And so part of that is, looking at the 20 hours a week, and we all have to manage our life, and all of our lives are very different, to really think about how much time you have to put into it and how you want to schedule that. And if you want to discuss alternative ways, talk to your SSCs, because they know all the different alternatives on scheduling, taking time off, impact on finances, impacts on your loans. But it ends up that you have to spend 20 hours a week for a year to a year and a half. If you're not doing that, it's very difficult to complete it in that period of time. That's why GCU has extension classes. Some people need them, other people don't need them. But they're there for people who say, no, I can't do it. I have 2 kids, a job, and this and that, and I don't have 20 hours a week. Yeah. So, and talk to your chair about that. Talk to them about the schedule. The minimum progression milestones were put in. And remember, those are the minimum progression milestones. You can go much faster than that. And we do have learners that are kind of covering 2 courses worth in each course and are getting way ahead. And others that, because of personal reasons or other reasons, end up repeating a course. So we're trying to give flexibility, but in the end, it takes a certain amount of time to do it. But there are ways to shorten it, like doing the form and format. And here's another one I tell my learners, the length you see for each section, make that your target. Because it may say 1 page and sometimes I get 5 when we know that those sections can be done in that length. So that allows you to get done quicker and faster. Everybody goes differently. I've had learners that take 9, and I've had learners like Karen that took over a year or just 3 years total.
So this question is posed to Dr. Anna. How do you balance rest, self-care with continuous forward momentum?
The self-care question from Dr. Delvin, which I love, and I'll answer that, but I think it's valuable if the other people on the panel maybe consider that too, because self-care means different things to different people. So I think the best kind of gauge of that is when you consider whatever you need for self-care, what are the long-term impacts of that trade-off? So for me, exercise is a form of self-care, as I'm a fitness professional, just as Dr. Hoff is. And so to take an hour away from the day did take time away from my dissertation, but I knew in the long term, I needed that for my mental clarity, for my well-being, just for my overall health, and to keep myself moving forward and have a little bit of time away from the screen. Whereas there are other things in your life that you might consider, well, the long-term impacts of this, I'm not going to feel great if I have spent an hour a day watching TV or something like that. When I presented to my small group, I said, I got married during the doctoral journey and I spent like 5 days with my dissertation gathering dust, but I had weighed those impacts. It was very much important self-care to me to spend time with my family. So those long-term impacts were minimal because I knew I was going to pick up where I left off. So just considering what's truly important to you and in line with your values and allows you to be your best doctoral student, whether that be exercise or prayer or meditation or being with friends in a social setting, as long as it's not hours and hours every day, or church or whatever that may be. You have to decide what that is, but you can weigh that out for yourself to think about the long-term ramifications.
So this question looks like it's for any panelist. What impact did the 2 residencies have on your progress through program timeline, positive and or negatives? Just one person gets to grab that one. Go for it, Christine.
So I would say the residencies, while they were a little overwhelming at times, I think it did help me get a better understanding of what they call it now, the background to the problem space instead of the gap. It made me have a better idea of what that was supposed to be. I think I kind of came into residency 1 thinking, okay, I got a topic, but I don't think I really honed in on what exactly was I going to try to address, and would that be a viable dissertation topic. So that helped me for residency number 1. For residency 2, I think by the time I was done, I had my 10 strategic points done and looking somewhat decent. So I think that residency helped me to get a better idea of which research methodology I should be using, why I needed to use it. In that residency, I had an epiphany that I had to do a quantitative study instead of a qualitative one, which I think changed the trajectory of a lot of stuff for my process. So, but I think it was helpful in honing all of that in.
Yeah, thank you. There's a great question from Jess. So what was your cognitive experience of the space between coursework and writing dissertation? That sounds to me like an uphill climb. How did you get through? One person, one panelist.
And I'm taking notes.
Yeah, cognitive experience. I love that. Thank you, Jess. What was the cognitive experience between the space between coursework and writing the dissertation? Sounds like an uphill climb. How'd you plow through it? Come on now.
Help somebody. I'm at that point.
Yeah, Justin needs some help here. Dr. Hoff, you're the cognitive person.
Can the question be, I guess, asked a little differently, like an example? I'm trying to, I guess, illustrate that in my head, like what that looks like.
what was your how did you experience the transition? What was going on when you experienced the transition from your last course into the dissertation process, through writing the proposal and getting it through IRB and all of the, collecting the data? What was your experience of that process? Because it sounds like everyone says, oh, you finished your coursework, but now the real work begins. And I thought I had done real work for the past 2.5 years. So someone who has accomplished that, I wonder, of course, I know you plow through by self-care and being disciplined, but there must be something else that you experience that you could share to help someone trying to make that transition, and realizing that it doesn't have to be 9 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Jess, I'll take that one. That's good. Yeah, that helps. Thank you. I'm just thinking back to myself. Someone had mentioned, I think it was Dr. Christina mentioned about the second residency, coming out of there with a really good head of what to expect and what was needed. And you're right, Jess. I can totally relate to what you just said, because when I went to my second residency, I had complete straight A's up to that point, and I was like, all right, pat myself on the back. And same thing, I was kind of just not told in those words, but kind of can relate to what you're thinking, like, okay, that didn't mean anything. Now here's your real, test. This is your dissertation. I was like, oh, wow. And it was kind of like that eye-opening thing of like, this is the make or break it point. If you don't get this dissertation, then you're done, and it could take 9 years. You're absolutely right. I totally concur and agree with that. So kind of for me and my best perspective to answer that, that was one thing that I tackled immediately right off the bat, because at my second residency, I had asked my instructors, I said, I want to walk out of here with a really clear vision of both the prospectus and the transition and the proposal, because right after my second residency, I walked into the developing the prospective class and really got onto that PowerPoint and try to expand those 10 strategic points into that prospectus / proposal PowerPoint template. And so you're right. I think that it's a big eye opener, because you're realizing that this really is the final test, so to speak. As an analogy, I guess for attorneys, it's when they have to pass the bar. It doesn't matter what they've done before then, they've got to figure out how to pass that bar, or else they're not going to be a lawyer. And so in our case, yeah, I think that you're right with the dissertation itself. It's a matter of making sure that it's manageable, doable, that your chair accepts it, that it is aligned, that everything is in alignment. Of course, that's the most fundamental, important thing with the research questions, problem space, etc. And just really understanding how you're going to write those sections. So for me, the help came with when Dr. Mall told me, and she already, just to reiterate what she said a few minutes ago, was telling me, walking me through and say, Taryn, I want you to make sure that you don't, if it says to, it's recommended 2 to 3 pages, don't go beyond that. Make sure you fulfill that as a limitation, And so in those parameters, to answer the questions in the dissertation, I just stuck to the rubric criteria, and I just chose each rubric criteria and devoted a paragraph to it until it made sense to fill up that section. So I hope that helps a little bit. That's I don't know if the other panel maybe wants to jump in there.